Hey, it's been a while. So, how have you been? Anything new since I've stopped dead in my tracks for this project without rhyme or reason? Yeah, what is with this inconsistency, I know, right? Had my fill of Minecraft and just moved on until it came back into my rotation, and before I go on rambling about that, how about this? I share you what I've been up to so far, and then I explain myself at the very end after everyone else has left. Sound good? Nearly a year had passed, with one odd private world sitting dormant and collecting dust, until it saw the light again, rebooting once more a small narrative for the far corners of the internet. My view constantly turned in all directions to read the cubic depths of the virtual realm, the color information, the lights, all coming together to form an image that connected to a memory. Once a single neuron fired a signal, my memories flooded to me like a broken dam. I was in the deep depths of a dark quarry, left half constructed. The hole in the ground was to be my first build in this town project that would have served my material requirements and play off as a part of the village. There was a lot I managed to do, but it wasn't really tangible progress that made for an interesting video. There was the valley itself, my attempts to introduce other trees in the mix, and a small river piercing through the lakeside to break the monotonous birch view, two little ponds that just sat isolated in the depths of the valley, and all I had to do was just to connect them. Still, it was a nice blue stripe flowing through the green canvas. I had quite the plans for little bridges across the small river and quite the bay for ships. But the scale of the builds would completely overwhelm the small bodies of water and overwhelm me. This is going to be a massive undertaking that has the same overwhelming characteristics of the quarry digging, but as long as I keep myself into separate builds, dividing these tasks into smaller chunks, I could possibly manage. Evidently, I grew tired of clearing the quarry, but the idea, I still liked it, and with the renewed vigor, I was ready to go at this hole again. At least my first mini build was finally gonna conclude, as the further projects would finally meet their material requirements to begin planning, and that's how this became a blueprint episode. I was equipped with plenty of cobble to draw lines, to graft my 2D mind onto this blocky 3D fabric. To start, this very crude hole had to be decorated on multiple levels. It needed to look like an actual mining quarry, so my imagination gave me a couple ideas. A local forge, an elevator rig, a couple of alternating platforms going down, and a tent for equipment. Now, this hole wasn't very large or deep. My previous efforts seemed a bit lacking compared to my current energy, so I was ready to go at it again and reach deeper and deeper, expanding the hole in all directions. I guess I've just grown over time. My inventory was filling constantly every time I went down, so I had to get used to the frequent motion of going in and out, but eventually, I was done. One update later. Once the world was updated, I was able to drill a bit deeper in the quarry and I eventually hit something. An incredibly dark system of winding caves in the very deep depths. Now I heard that the caves would be expanded, but I never knew this is how deep it got. But at some point, I came across a massive opening filled with light and greenery. And the view was so surprisingly colorful. There were new blocks to collect, new things to learn about. I was barely able to mark my path with torches as I ran low on resources so deep underground. And also, my inventory seemed so small compared to all these different things you could collect now. I had to place chests constantly, and those worked as my way back through the caves, as I kept wanting to explore more. And I'm sure I only scratched the surface in these depths, but I was seriously overwhelmed with the material and the new sights, so I had to slowly leave. The quarry met its completion, and it was time to use the abundance of resources in order to lay out the rough shape of the actual village. I grabbed my cobble and began splitting the canvas in half. I was still working with the same imagery I had for this valley from the very beginning, because after so long I still found it to be the right thing to build. And I started with a large bridge crossing the chasm. The idea behind the bridge was to make housing slightly unorthodox by forming around the bridge's massive pillars. From above it would look like the chunk of land was divided in two, and around the main pillar a circle forms, the houses absorbing the pillar and breaking up the view in as many different shapes as possible. In this case, I just used one basic shape against another basic shape, and the zones became small enough to split remaining chunks into broken house-sized pieces, like glass. This way the main paths were linear, but with so many random shapes, there would be no single plot that I could repeat a layout in. Of course, this will introduce more challenges in interiors and wall patterns, but I'm hoping that this will just turn out nicely. If anything, I started out with a wide enough path to vary depths for each story of each house, so not only do I get a more chaotic / unique look in every direction, but I can possibly make room in places that really need it. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. None of this is final, because we're just imagining this will work, and it probably won't. It's somewhat a good thing that I've just begun blueprinting instead of building the whole village house by house, because I've already run into some issues during planning, which are: my bridge may be too low for the multiple stories of housing that wrap around the pillars. The roofs would overreach the bridge, but the bridge from one side to the other doesn't quite connect on the same level. I'm dealing with a huge incline that I don't want to transform into the bridge, so I would need to terraform the land a bit. Raise the bridge, but maybe not completely eliminate the other side's massive incline, and instead drill through, building around it. Also, I did sort of already drill a little entrance for my own home cave. I never really planned on making this my permanent residence, but I slowly kept adding details to it that now make it part of the village. You could say this is the original residence of the architect. The thing about this being my residence is, well, I wasn't alone. One particular rainy day, I was organizing my chests and an Enderman suddenly made its way inside. Out of nowhere, it just appeared and just stood there. This kinda does sound as random as last episode, huh? Now, this was a strange sight for me, but I didn't feel threatened, so I just let it be there as is and continued to organize. The thing is, the both of us didn't really care. The Enderman carried around its grass block and hung around for more than just that one rainy day, but I just let it. Even had to sleep through some nights near it. I wonder what Puck would think if she found out. But how about we just keep it between us? Anyway, the fields were clearing, the paths were laid out, plans etched into the mind, and days of work were starting to conclude this stage of building and concluding this episode. I know, I haven't built much here, but this seriously does take a while. Anyway, this is where we part ways for today. So, if you've managed to get so far, thank you. Mind asking yourself the question of whether you were entertained or not, and react appropriately below, whether it's the like and dislike or fire and slime. Personal update time for anyone that cares. So what happened was, I had my fill of Minecraft the moment I started working on the next episode, and so I began rotating games. The grind can get dull sometimes, but building is fun, which I'm, once again, after so many times, right now am rediscovering with this episode. It's got a cozy feel, but also there are just other games I like to play, when I crave something other than chilling. Most of those games just aren't the type of games I want to make something on, I'd just rather enjoy them. Also, YouTube keeps being a bad actor in creative freedom, but it's also so deeply glued to us as a platform for creation and entertainment that there's nothing quite like it. I know about alternatives like Odyssey, and I'm personally only using Odyssey for as long as I can handle every time YouTube changes something I don't like, but the platform just isn't so widespread. There isn't so much of stuff that I would personally enjoy watching, or maybe it's just not fine-tuned yet. So the prospect of being seen isn't here nor there, and YouTube becomes less and less likely to be my future because of how long I've been here, stuck in the perpetual grinder of statistical insignificance. That would only reward me if I changed my style, changed who I am, and basically make things I don't want to make. I mean, YouTube still only recommends my old Generation Zero videos, even though I've stopped doing them for over a year, maybe 2 now. Basically, I want to be seen, but I don't want to change myself to be seen. I want to keep my style. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I think there's success to be had, but the chances are less, and I still want to try when I have time. So long story short, I'm making what I feel like making. Whether it's content, art, or something in code when YouTube gets tiring. Anyways, fuck conformity, be original, do what you want, but also like, sub, share, turn on notifications, leave a comment, check my socials, and yada yada. What, 2% of my views are subbed? Cringe? What the fuck? Join the good crowd, and bye.